Hey, innovators and investors. We're back with part 2 of our From Minimum Wage to 100K series on innovation and income. Today, it's all about putting in the work. We explore the strategies to maximize productivity, find the right job, and get on the road to your career. Ready to roll up your sleeves and get to work? Let's dive in. On part 1, we talked a great deal about doing some research on careers. We wanted to be able to understand approximately what career field we might want to focus our efforts into, because we want to understand what the requirements are in order to get there. So we talked about using tools such as artificial intelligence to help us with research, to understand in a particular area, what's the given market? Is there a particular type of work that's more sought after than others? Is it harder to come by, or is it readily available? And then additionally is, what would the salaries be like as we start to progress in that career field? So we had to understand exactly what our goal was for our next phase of life in order to understand what we should be doing at phase 1. Today, we're going to be talking about what to do at our phase 1. So part 2, right now, we're going to talk about getting into that entry-level position, that minimum wage job that's going to help position us to get into our ultimate goal, which would be getting into that final career. So we're going to go back to our good friend artificial intelligence to do some more research and get some information about some different job roles. Because with minimum wage, we want to balance a few different aspects. Number one is that we want to earn an income of some sort, something that we can start contributing to our financial goals. And then additionally, look for additional amenities, things that can help us progress within our career path that we've chosen. So what we're going to do is, one thing to note, when we looked at our career goals, we looked at a particular area. It was an area that we had an interest in, or an area that we may have picked randomly in the case of the video that we did prior. But what we did is that we picked a spot to understand what the work-life balance would be like, what the work requirements are. Now, from where we're starting today, we're going to start from right where we are. There's no reason to hop in a car, rent a U-Haul, and travel across the country to go somewhere in anticipation of the career that we're not ready to attain yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to start right home where we are today. So wherever you are, in whatever city that you're in, I'm going to pick one at random. I'm going to say that we're in Webster, Mass. So in the last video, we talked about McKinley, Texas. We're going to talk about Webster, Massachusetts as our starting location. This is where we're starting off our search here to start our career path. And what we're going to do is think and look about what are some job opportunities that are out there. So we have to really focus again. These minimum wage jobs are jobs that have very little to no requirements. The requirements typically are a high school diploma or GED, in a go-get-em, gung-ho attitude. So if we have that and we can bring that to the table, then we don't have to worry about having to have a college degree or the educational backing. Again, this is simply our stepping stone to start our process to getting to where we ultimately want to be. So within Webster, Mass, we're going to be looking for a minimum wage jobs. We can think about them in many different ways. We can go work at a big box store and work at a cash register stocking shelves, or work at a fast food restaurant and go ahead and work as a frontline worker or fry cook. Go work at a restaurant and wait staff and be able to do some of those jobs. These all have different pluses and minuses. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at something that's very common, that's in every area. I can't think of a place that we really don't see these very often. And that is, I'm going to be looking for jobs at a fast food place. Looking over the job openings for fast food. And what this is going to do, again, this is just a great, easy search engine. It's going to look for places that have openings, fast food places in the area of Webster, Mass. And we could see here that we have a few different listings. So we have food delivery driver for DoorDash, service associate, Panera Bread. We have restaurant manager at Dunkin'. Now, again, we have to really be cautious and understand, if it's a managerial position, the odds are there's going to be some prerequisite requirements. There's going to be some job history that we have to have or possess in order to be able to get these roles. So we want to be cautious to kind of put those aside and realize we're not going to go in at a supervisory level or a managerial level or director level. Those are the positions that we kind of want to put aside for right now. And I can see that I have a few different items listed here. But one thing that comes to mind is a favorite is how about McDonald's? Now, a lot of this is going to be based on your location, because even though we look at Webster, Mass. As an entire town, this may be far away. If you have the convenience of being close to a particular location, a particular franchise or storefront, you have an opportunity there to save money on things like travel, commuting back and forth, and getting into the role itself. In this case, obviously, we don't have a specific address that we're using. We're just using the general location of Webster, Mass. So we have here that McDonald's currently has in Webster, Mass. They have several job openings. Weekend crew team members, full-time positions, competitive pay. Okay, great. Janitorial position. Okay. Office assistant. All right, and we can get an idea here. If you notice that it has some of these, it has some pay scales there for us as well. And we can see team member and weekend crew don't appear to be listed. I will pay for 1 and 4. So we can, again, artificial intelligence is great because it can really fill in the blanks here. So let's see, team member this is in Charlton, Mass. So it's $16 an hour. Okay. So we get a little bit of an idea anyway. So looking at these, obviously general manager, we'd have to take off the list. Experienced shift managers, take that off the list. Then getting into office assistant. Well, office assistant, we can probably find some details about it. It looks like there are some listings here for Indeed.com. If we click on these links, you can see number 2 is the reference for this one. We can get an idea of what that posting is, and we can pull it up. And the nice part here is it's always good opportunity with artificial intelligence. Check the information that's providing you. So we could see here that we have for McDonald's, Webster, Mass, full-time, and provide some information about office assistant. So this is an entry-level office assistant position, or position of long-term and expanding company offering 401k, paid vacations, and accrued sick time. So it has some different listings here. It looks like all the listings are coming predominantly from this one. And we can see a maintenance person, and we can see a team member. So this is good information. It gives us an idea of where we can land here. So let's say, assuming that we wanted to go with office assistant. Office assistant would have a different starting hours here. So we can go in and see if we can drill into it and get a little bit more detail, a little bit more information about this office assistant. Pretty generic role by name. And we can see it has an address here of 44 East Main Street in Webster, Mass. Again, I'm not familiar with Webster, Mass at all. Just picked it up random. But this may or may not be close to your location. Obviously, that's a consideration when looking at these roles. But again, remember, this is not your career. So look at this from the point of what can you use this as a stepping stone for? How can you take advantage of this role to move to that next step? So we can see the benefits, 401k, flexible schedule. Let's see the full job description. Entry-level office assistant for a long-term and expanding company offering 401k and vacation and accrued sick time, starting at $17 to $19 per hour based on experience. Okay, so that's a consideration. So let's look at the qualifications. We have a high school diploma or equivalent required, so it must be a graduate or a GED. Bilingual English and Spanish or Portuguese preferred. So that's interesting. This would be preferred. This is whether we're likely to be in the running for the role or not. And then reliable transportation, the ability to get to and from. So let's look a little bit of responsibilities. Answering screening phone calls, filing, managing store paperwork, handle sensitive information with discretion. I have a basic understanding of human resource practices, a mail-in lunch pickup, transportation required. Other duties is delegated, including but not limited to administrative work and any other items needed to help support the restaurant. So something to consider is when you're reading into these responsibilities, It's good to read between the lines. Things like basic understanding of human resources practices. This tells me that you're probably going to have privy to some information of a sensitive nature, probably have to make some decisions that could have an impact to the business, to the job itself, to your role, and to you personally. So this is something that as a starting role, maybe not the best if it's your first time in the workforce. This is something you'd want to have at least some experience and some level of previous discretion. Looking at these, we see weekend crew member. It says weekends as needed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the team member listing. The team member listing is always interesting. Let's see. It can range, it looks like from $15 to $18 an hour, part-time to full-time. So let's talk about benefits. So we have dental insurance, flexible schedule, language, training provided. That's good. Opportunities for advancement, paid time off, tuition reimbursement, and vision care. So let's talk about the benefits. And let's talk about how these benefits can really align us for a stepping stone for our first job. Dental insurance, obviously insurance of any kind is always nice. We always want to make sure that we're taking care of our health and having coverage because these things can get rather expensive. Flexible schedule, this is ideal. A place with a flexible schedule means that it doesn't have to be locked in stone. So as an example, one of the things that you're going to want to be able to do is use this to be able to build funds so that you can do things like get your education in line for your career goals, get certifications cared for. Those are all going to take time. Those are all time away from your personal life, but also in many cases, a lot of times away from your work life. So this means that you're likely going to need to have certain days. As an example, maybe you're taking a college course that meets on Mondays and Wednesdays. And on those Mondays and Wednesdays, you have to be in class by 5 p.m. Maybe typically you work until 6 p.m. In this scenario, we have a flexible schedule. You can have your shift potentially shift off. You could have those as your off days and then work the weekends. A flexible schedule is important and perfect for what we're looking for. So this is great to see as a benefit. Language training provided. So any training at all, whether it be customer service training, language training, managerial training, whatever training they want to offer is paid for training by the company that is only going to benefit you in the long run. Any amount of skill set that you can pick up from here is a great one. In McDonald's training programs, I know they don't always get the best rap here, but McDonald's training programs are actually some of the best out there with regards to what they're actually providing to people, their employees. Opportunities for advancement. So this is another thing to really consider as well. In a lot of places like fast food, it's difficult because there's quite a bit of turnover. A lot of people come and go. Sometimes the people are working there just for the summer. You have people that are just working there part-time for retirement. They may work there for a period of time and then move on. So there's always a scenario where that staff is constantly rolling over. So that means there's constantly new team members coming in. There's constantly opportunities that are presenting themselves. And in these types of roles, the number one item that most of these businesses want is reliability. If you have a schedule and you can show up for that schedule, you perform the duties that you're asked to perform, and you do so in a solid, functional way, and you're going to have a really great opportunity for advancement. Now, again, this is a stepping stone job, but don't be afraid to take advantage of advancement opportunities. Advancement opportunities add to your skill sets and add direction and get you closer to your goal that much quicker. They come with more pay, more responsibilities, and it takes a little bit more juggling from your perspective to be able to take advantage of it, but highly recommend it. It's a great opportunity to do just that. Paid time off is great. Anytime that you can collect money for not having to be somewhere, you can always have that time to yourself to actually decompress and unwind from obviously running a very tough schedule, or utilizing that time to fill it with additional opportunities that you can go ahead and either get additional funding or do additional steps that are going to get you closer to your career goals. Tuition reimbursement. This is perfect. Tuition reimbursement is huge because one of the biggest hurdles that you'll have with regards to getting into your career is going to be in education. And the education you're going to have to attain will come with a price tag, and it's going to be costly. And now you can go the route of going ahead and getting a student loan and getting it out of the way and skipping the workforce and going into it that way. However, you've probably heard the stories. It is not my recommendation. I say you avoid it. I avoided it. I went through, my education was predominantly paid for by my employers because I went and I worked for organizations that had tuition reimbursement and took advantage, leveraged that to the best of my ability to be able to pay for all of the education programs that I need, and then certifications as well. So tuition reimbursement, perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. Vision insurance, again, obviously anything to do with health insurance. So let's talk a little bit more about the job itself. So currently offering a starting rate of $15 to $17 an hour with experience for hour per day, for day, evening, and closing shifts. So they have all shifts available. So this is good. Something else to note: when you see a range of $15 to $17 an hour, here's a little trick, and it's something that you should really consider. Assume that you'll end up with the lowest rate on the scale, $15 to $17 an hour. Starting with that assumption, you know that that's your base level. Anything else you get above that is bonus. Now, what you can do is there's nothing wrong with you being able to justify to say that you want to get $16 or $16.50 or $17 an hour to get higher rate in the scale. Just be ready to have the discussion around why that's justified. And since we're starting out, we don't have the experience when we're going into this starting role to act again as our springboard up into our career. The odds are that we're not going to have much experience to pull from. But if you have previous experience, maybe you've worked at a fast food restaurant before, worked at another restaurant before, maybe had some sort of work experience, bring that to the table. And we'll be talking about that in a later episode when we talk about it a little bit later in this episode, actually. We'll be talking about it in more detail. So we can see the benefits. Tuition assistance, let's see. Tuition assistance, $2,500 a year. Okay. Flexible scheduling, paid time off. Okay. So we have more of this, really just the benefits listed again. So let's see a little bit about, do we have anything about the job itself? Requirements. Okay. So what does a member of our crew team get to do? Well, we get to do it. Well, good for us. We connect with customers to ensure they have a positive experience. Okay, we're going to have customer service experience. This is a good thing. It can be difficult dealing with the customers. A lot of it has to do with how we interact, how we communicate. This is likely going to be something that'll be out of your comfort zone. If you're a very open person, maybe it's something that's very much in your wheelhouse. It'll be a great opportunity to work with people in many different ways. Customer service is probably one of those greatest skills that span across every job role. Every role has some level of customer service experience required. We're going to help customers order their favorite McDonald's meals. All right, cool. So good for us. We're going to prepare all of McDonald's world famous foods. Well, they really like to trump up the sound of the roles and the activities that you're doing. We're going to partner with other crew and managers to meet daily goals and have fun. Okay. And keep the restaurant looking fantastic. So we're going to be working on customer service. We're going to be taking orders. We're going to be making food, and we're going to be working basically over our crew members and managers. And we're going to collaborate together. And if we notice on the last bullet here, we have keep the restaurant looking fantastic. It means that we're going to get our hands dirty. We're going to do some cleaning around the restaurant, cleaning around unfortunately, probably the bathrooms, and obviously back of house, I'm sure, cleaning where the food prep is. So this looks like a pretty good opportunity for us here. So looking at the roles, what are some of the requirements here? Did we get into the requirements? Yes. We took the job description. Yeah. If you notice, the requirements here really aren't stated. And the reason being is that this is an entry-level position. As I mentioned before, this is a high turnover role. This means that you are very likely to get this position. So putting the resume together, having the interview, it's typically a formality unless you're really, really having a difficult time with the interview process. So this is something I think that you can probably get pretty readily, pretty handily, and that scale of $15 to $17 an hour, even though it's interesting. Overnight shifts. Okay. At the heading here, it said $15 to $18 an hour, but we can see for your standard day shifts, it's $15 to $17 an hour. Where also hiring for overnight shifts, starting at $16 to $18 an hour. So you get a dollar bonus on top for working night shifts. And this is absolutely a possibility as well. They're looking for those shifts. So this is great because this is an opportunity where you could have your schooling and education and do other things during the day, and then have your work at night to help fund all of your financial goals and get going towards your career. And then it would require sleep adjustment on your schedule, meaning that you'd probably sleep in the mornings or sleep late in the afternoons before your overnight shift starts. But this is obviously a great opportunity because it can offset when things are taking place. All right. So looking at this, I think we have a great possibility here with regards to this McDonald's position. So we've had a little discussion about kind of the role. We looked around, found a place in the form of McDonald's, and maybe it was close by. Maybe it becomes an opportunity for us. Well, the next thing we have to do is we have to put together a resume. So when we're putting together a resume, that resume is going to do one thing. It's going to be typically a single sheet of paper. We don't want to get too large. And what we want to be able to do is put down a little bit of information about us. It's a little something to answer the basic questions that somebody might have to get them past that initial scale of, should I have a conversation with this person? Your resume does not get you a job. Your resume simply gets you a conversation. That conversation is what's going to help you to seal the deal and either get the job or not get the job. So resumes are typically done, these days done electronically. Back in my day when I was starting out, a lot of this was done with physical paper. So you would maybe type it on the computer and then print it out and then physically deliver it or mail it to a location in order to do that. Now, I don't know, in a lot of cases, they'll have places where you can just kind of go into the store and go ahead and submit your resume and get an interview. A lot of times even on the spot. So let's do this. With regards to a resume, we can use, again, some of the tools that we have available to us, and we can ask it about, let's build a resume for the McDonald's. What was it? Team member role. Role in Webster, Mass. So what we can do is we can, again, work with our artificial intelligence to help us kind of fill in the blanks. And you notice the nice thing here is that it's actually pulling information in for us. It's creating these categories. Now, it doesn't actually create something where you kind of grab, take it, and just prop it and print. But what it does do is give you some opportunities to fill this in. So this is a bit of a standard form. It's having you fill in the blanks with your name, your address, your phone number. This is important on a resume. You want to be able to provide it to a potentially hiring manager and say, this is how you can get in contact with me. This is how we can go about having this conversation going to the next step. And our objective, this is important. It's one of the things that a lot of people forget about when submitting resumes, is that you want to have an overall objective or some kind of a forward or some kind of remarks to state, why am I the right person for this role? Why would you, as a hiring manager, want me to come in and interview? And this objective is something that's above and beyond the specificity of what you have historically from an educational perspective or from a historical work experience. This is really kind of that blurb, that few sentences, one or two sentences that really just flush out why that hiring manager should be there. And also realize that the majority of these resumes are being ingested electronically. And what happens is that computer systems are looking for keywords. They're looking for context. And a lot of them now are using AI as a technology to be able to say, hey, this is the description of what I want as a hiring manager. Out of all the resumes that are submitted, I want you to go ahead and distill up and give me the top 10 or 20 or 30, whatever amount of roles that I'm trying to hire for or how quickly I'm trying to turn it around. So having this in here gives you an opportunity to match up language, to match up your capabilities to the role that you're applying for. So in this case, objective is a dedicated, enthusiastic individual seeking a team member position at McDonald's in Webster, Mass. to contribute excellent customer service, teamwork, and fast food industry skills to a dynamic work environment. So looking at this, there's a lot of keywords in here. Dedicated and enthusiastic. Obviously, two things. Dedicated means that you're going to be somebody that's going to be reliable. When you say you're going to be on schedule and show up for a morning shift, you're going to be there for the morning shift. There's not going to be a need to go ahead and try to have somebody else cover your shift or have them covered. Enthusiastic, you're going to have a great attitude about it. And then mentioning specifically the position by role, by location, by role name, the company, and then location. Where is it that you're applying for? So we could tell that this wasn't just sent to every McDonald's across the country with the hopes of getting a job interview. And this, we're focused in this resume on McDonald's, but this is good advice, obviously, for any resume they might be putting together. Excellent customer service, teamwork, fast food industry skills, dynamic work environment. All of these items are really coming from the job description and the job posting, and really pulling those items forward. So let's see, from an educational, we have high school diploma. And this assumed that we live in Webster, Mass. So it's probably Webster High School, Webster, Mass. So obviously you'd want to put in whatever you've graduated here. If you have a GED, you want to put that in here as well in place of that. This is where you can really have any educational experience. It's also a great opportunity to put in here if you have any kind of certificate programs. If you've participated in something where you've had any kind of a certificate as a result, would be a great opportunity to put that in here as well. Oh, there's we haven't broken out the certification. So in this case, it was a little bit different. Experienced customer service representative, retail store, Webster, Mass. Okay, so this is this is assuming that you've had this experience in customer service representative. So this is assuming that you've done this in the past. So this is putting something in as an example. If you have any experience, this experience would, think about it this way. You may not have gotten into anything. Obviously, you're looking for a career, so you're probably not in a career right now. Have you worked anywhere before? Have you worked anywhere as a volunteer? Have you worked as an internship? These are all other opportunities that you may have had growing up. Maybe some summer work that you worked on a farm, or maybe that you worked for a restaurant or a friend of the family, done some work for them as well. This is an opportunity to kind of put that information forward. While this is an entry-level position, if you can show even a little bit of experience or history in working, this is all going to be in your benefit. So if there's anything that you could fit in here, you can kind of fit into this general mold. And again, this information is what just the AI kind of put as really just placeholder for you. We didn't provide any of this context. So we just put in like, this would be a good set of experiences to have for somebody that might be looking for this role. And then we get into skills. Skills is a great opportunity to say, you know what, I know you're looking for this. You want them to be able to do these skills. This is a great opportunity for you to be able to list out those skills that you have that are in line with the skills they're looking for. And then additionally, any skills that might be ancillary or adjacent to it that might assist that weren't listed in there. We could see here the skills they listed: strong communication and interpersonal skills. This would be perfect. We're going to be dealing with customers. We're going to be dealing with coworkers. We're going to be working with managers. So all of these are going to come into strong communication and interpersonal skills. Ability to work in a fast-paced environment. This was expressly called out in the job posting. So great. Yes, I can work in a fast-paced environment. Absolutely. Why wouldn't I be able to? Reliable and punctual. Huge need in places in minimum wage jobs. It's just very, very common that this be a really common factor for people moving on or not being a good match for the organization. Team-oriented with a positive attitude. This is something that's obviously important. It creates a good workplace environment for everybody involved. Basic math skills for handling cash transactions. We handle very little cash transactions these days. We're predominantly done electronically. But having an understanding of being able to make change is an important piece. Now, you have the computer in front of you. All of that's going to be trained. All of it's going to be taught where you put in they're going to have a total amount that's required from the transaction, and you'll be able to put in just the amount provided by the customer, and it'll automatically be able to make the change for you. But in the event that you have an issue with the system, in a rare event where it's unavailable, that's something that you want to be able to kind of do some of this basic math. And again, it's if it's $10 and you give me $20, you get $10 back. That sort of a transaction and understanding. And then certifications. If you have any, great. If not, if you have no certifications to add in here, then just leave it off. If you have anything that's really empty, you probably want to leave it blank. References. Typically, you want to do available upon request. This is really an indication that I have some references. References are people that would be able to vouch for your ability to work in a work environment. This is not family members. This is not mom and dad, brother and sister, aunt, uncle, cousin, nephew. You want to be able to pick somebody that you've had some sort of work relationship in the past, somebody that you've worked with previously. So if you've had a job elsewhere, and you could put down your previous employer. If your previous employer will act as a reference for you, and this is an important piece. You don't want to just put down their information. Typically, it'll end up being a name. It'll be the company they work for, their job role, and then a phone number, a contact email. In which case, they will likely reach out to you as you get into the point where you're moving into your career and into your full-time job, where you'll be progressing up. These references will come in much more important. The odds are that this McDonald's job, they're not going to be contacting your references, but before you put down somebody as a reference, make sure you reach out to them. Let them know. Say, hey, I'm applying for these jobs. This is what it is. I'd really appreciate, could you be a reference for me? Don't assume that they will do it. Ask them. And if you ask them nicely and ask for help, 99.9% of the time, people are going to say, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and put me down as a reference. I'd be happy to be a reference for you. But you want to be able to provide that to them. Ideally, the rule is try to get 3. 3 references will help out a great deal. And in this case, again, it's not going to be much of an issue, but in general, you want to be able to put that together for them. Now, what we want to be able to do is understand, how do we apply for this job? So we're going back here, and we can see that there's an option on this website to apply for the job right here. So this is going to ask us to log in. So something else that we can do is that we know that in this case, let's see. So this role is in Charlton, Mass. So let's find out where Charlton, Mass is, and comparatively to where we are. So what I can do is I can ask AI, or I can go into another tool that I really like to use and use to great effect, is Google Maps. And it's just maps.google.com. And this is something that a lot of times you can use for GPS. It works really, really well. I like to use satellite view because I like to see how it would look in the real world. And what we can do here is we can put down Charlton, Mass, and I can put down McDonald's. And what will happen is that it will go to McDonald's in Charlton, Mass. And it is going to give us a few different options. So it looks like we have 3 or 4 that are listed in Charlton, Mass. Now, unsure, obviously, if there's which the job posting is for. Let's see if we can get a little bit more detail and dig in a little bit further. Additional info. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't really have it listed here. But what we can see is we can see where they're listed in the stores. And we could see that they're in relatively short order from where we are. So let's zoom out a little bit. And we can see these are listed predominantly here. I'm going to pick one of these at random. So what we can do is you can actually drive by them to see what's going on, because there's 2 different ways that you can apply. You can go ahead and do it electronically, do it through Indeed. But in most cases, what you can do is go ahead and stop by the store and just ask somebody at the front desk, hey, you're hiring. Sometimes they'll have it posted and say, hey, we're hiring. Come on in and talk to us. And in most cases, go in with a printed resume and say, look, I'd like to apply for a job. I'd like to become a team member here. Are you hiring? Is there somebody I could talk to? And in most cases, you're able to talk with the hiring manager right then and there. The shift manager that's on is usually looking for employees to work on the shift they're on or one of the other shifts. It's an opportunity for you to be able to essentially have that conversation with them right out of the get. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get directions from here. We're going to go from Webster, Mass. And we're going to see we have our starting point of Webster, Mass to here. We're talking about a 30-minute drive. So this is a bit far, a little bit far. But considering that this is something that could be an opportunity for us and it could put us in a good spot, it's not the end of the world. Being 30 minutes away, about 17 miles it looks to be. It looks like that route has tolls. We have this one that doesn't have tolls. And you have some choices. Oh, that has tolls as well. That has tolls as well. Like, Cool. So we could probably pick an option, but we're less concerned about that. I was more concerned about distance. And what we can do now is we can go here. And that's not how I want to do this. Let me take a step back. So we have this McDonald's. We can see where it's located. And something else we can do is we have this little guy here. Wherever the blue line is, we can drop him in, and we can get an idea of what this looks like. And it looks like this McDonald's is at this stop. So that's why there's probably tolls there, because it's likely within this truck stop. So it's right off the highway itself. So something to consider is that you can utilize these to understand where these are located, but then also what the neighborhood is like, what the area is like, and sometimes you can get a little bit of in scope or information as far as what's around the area to get an idea if it's a place that you'd feel comfortable going to and working on a regular basis. So once you've gone ahead and walked in, two things to really understand when you're going in to have this initial conversation with a hiring manager. When you're walking into that McDonald's, you want to have your resume ready, something that you can present to them to have that conversation. Assume you're going to be talking to somebody when you walk in. The other thing too is how you're dressing. You don't have to get a suit and tie. Don't have to dress up like you're going to a wedding or a black tie event. What you want to be able to do though is wear clean clothes, dress in an appropriate way. So if you're going to be going to McDonald's, most of the McDonald's uniforms are jeans or black jeans or khaki pants. It's a collared black shirt typically. So if you have a collared shirt, something like a polo, something that you can put up, then you can wear that. Don't wear a t-shirt. Don't wear something that has a band on it or something that could be taken offense. Come in and dress a bit nondescript, but professional. You can wear jeans, wear sneakers, try to wear something that doesn't have holes in it or doesn't have things, hanging off of it. You're not going in to make a fashion statement. You're going in to just be dressed professionally, dress conservatively, and then be ready to have that conversation. So when you're having the interview, some of the things to consider is how you're dressed, how you're communicating, and your body language. So we communicate in different ways. When we communicate with one another, we do things like making eye contact. We do things with our facial expressions. We get involved and inflect. An inflection is when we're really putting emphasis on words that we say. We can do it in different ways. We can do it with inflection in our voice, and we can do it with gestures in our hands. We can do it with head motion. We can do it with shoulders and our body language. When you're having a conversation with somebody, we don't want to just sit back and lounge like we don't want to be there and just like we're taking a nap or getting ready. Instead, we want to lean in a little bit, not hanging over the table, but maybe sitting a little bit more on the edge of your seat, a little bit forward, a little bit more engaged with the individual. We don't want to have solid, piercing eye contact, never blinking, never ceasing. But at the same time, we want to have a glancing eye contact and maybe looking as we're talking, maybe shoulder to shoulder, so that we have some head movement, we have some eye movement. We're not sitting and staring a hole through somebody when we're having a conversation with them. And that is some of the body language and some of the language skills. But then also, when we talk, we don't have to be fast through what we're saying. Be mindful of what you're talking through. When they ask questions, pause for a moment. If someone asks you a question, don't just jump right in with the answer, and this is exactly how I would answer that. But pause for a moment. That pause does two things. Number one, it gives you a chance to really contemplate what you want to answer, how you want to answer it, the information that you want to share with this individual. But then also, the person that's asking it, what they're going to take from that conversation is that you're thinking truthfully about the question. It's not a matter of answering quickly. It's not a matter of having the right answer at your fingertips. It's a matter of being able to think thoughtfully about it. And if they ask a question and you truly aren't sure what the answer is, don't be afraid to say so. If they ask a question you don't know what the answer is, here's a good opportunity for you to do this, is to think about it for a moment and say, you know what? I'm not sure what that answer is, but I will tell you this. I'm going to go from this interview, when I head home, I'm going to do some research and I want to find out what that answer is. I want to understand what the resolution is, what the resolution would be to this. And I would love it if you have any insight into that. What would you do in that situation? Or what is the answer? Would you be willing to share the answer with me? So being willing to ask for help, willing to ask and talk in a way that gives the conversation room to breathe. Don't have to rush through it. And that can be tough because getting into an interview, what typically will happen is that sometimes our anxiety can get up, our adrenaline gets going, and we can start to make quick, rash discussions and decisions. But the odds are very likely taking a couple of these tips, having a nice, neat resume, coming in dressed well, having a conversation where you're thoughtfully interacting with the person that's interviewing you, it's very likely that you're going to get that job. And when you get that job, you're going to have great opportunities. The great opportunities are going to be to come in, suit a schedule that meets your needs, to start working towards your financial goals, start collecting monies to be able to put towards those goals, and start building yourself some valuable skills. Because now, when you look back on your resume, you're going to be able to put skills in there, such as customer service. The more people you interact with, the better. Customer service skills are paramount in every job, so building them up is huge in any way that you can. Think always about advancing your career within the business while you always have your focus and goal on your career and where you want to be. Don't be afraid to jump on a potential promotion. If you're doing a well enough job, you're showing up reliably on time, and you're putting really thoughtful interaction in at the workforce, what's going to happen is they're going to recognize that. And your leader is going to start to recognize you for higher level positions. Things like a shift leader or a supervisor or a store manager. Those are all opportunities for you to increase your skill sets, increase your pay, and also have, again, work on that flexibility to be able to meet your ultimate goals. And it's very possible that as you start to advance through, you may decide to change your career goals. Maybe your career goals goes into a different path or a different direction as you start to grow, experience the workforce, and experience what the rest of the world has to offer. You may change your ultimate goal. That's okay. But always keep your long-term goal in view. It'll be important to do that. And then the question is to really be able to balance your work with your educational goals in order to push forward in your career. We talked a little bit earlier. You'll have the flexibility and from a scheduling perspective to be able to line up your work time with educational time and effort. And then utilizing the educational reimbursement programs will help lessen the load and lessen the burden. Well, that is really what we're going to cover for today. I can't wait to talk to you about next time. We're going to be talking about what happens now in our next episode. Now that you have the job, you're starting to collect these funds, you're starting to align your work-life balance and how you're going to focus on the future. But more importantly, how are you going to live within the means that you now have? You have so much money you're making. Now we have to be able to live within that goal in order to meet our ultimate goal. Until next time. If you found this information helpful, be sure to hit the like button, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe to Innovation and Income for more financial wisdom. Together, let's innovate, invest, and build our future. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep innovating.